So Kunal, we are live now.
Okay, great. I think we have our esteemed panelists as well. Let me just take a minute to, announce our esteemed panelists, and then we'll move to the focus area for today, the discussion topic for today. So, from Bank of Baroda, we have Mr. Satyanarayan Gidugu. He's the DGM of Internal Audit, and definitely, we're looking forward to getting his input. As the way the bank is taking up, the entire digital and security agenda. We have from IDBI Bank, Mr. Ajoy Nath Jha. Thank you, sir, for joining. He's the Chief Risk Officer and will, in our discussion today, throw some light on how, they're addressing security risks in today's digital world. From Reliance Nippon Life Insurance, we have Mr. S.V. Sundar Krishnan, the Chief Risk Officer there, and definitely we look forward to your valuable input as well. And then from Aditya Birla Sun Life Insurance, we have Mr. Shailendra Kothavale, Chief Compliance and Risk Officer, and we look forward to have a very, very good interaction on and input on the topic that we have for today. Now, as part of Ignite 2021, let me kickstart this discussion. I'm Kunal Bhatia. I'm a partner with EY, and I focus on cybersecurity as a domain. I've been in the industry for about 15 plus years now, focusing purely on cyber, and we've all witnessed how it has evolved over the years. So, with the focus on security and operations, and within that, more focus on digital and being resilient. The theme is better safe than sorry. Let me just share 2 data points, and then I will move to my first question to all of you esteemed panelists. According to a recent a study and input from Capgemini, it was noted that there were about more than 700 billion transactions in 2020. Now imagine that's a huge number. And if I just get closer to India, and within that closer to towards the end of 2020, December 2020 itself, our president Shri Ramnath Kovind noted that the banks in India through digital payments processed over 4 lakh rupees, 4 lakh crore of digital transactions, and they are increasing on a day-to-day basis. Definitely, COVID has not just added to the digital journey. It is actually now adding even further from a security risk perspective, and that's where we'll focus on the fact that with this significant rise in digital transactions, what are some of the challenges that we are facing? With that, let me move to my first question, right? We all understand that digital assets and networks are more valuable than ever in the BFSI domain, right? And the threats to digital ecosystems are multiplying. Do you all believe that as a sector, we have acted appropriately to ensure that when cyber attacks happen, our most critical assets, which are not just the physical assets in the offices that we have or the operations that we are running, but the critical data, which is the underpinning of our data economy as we are growing, are protected. So let me, start with requesting Mr. Ajoy Nath Jha, the Chief Risk Officer at IDBI Bank, to start with, his, input on this, and then, we'll open it up to others to comment as well.
I'm sorry, but there is a lot of noise in the communication. I missed your question. Could you repeat yourself, please?
I'll repeat my question, sir. So my question is, if you are unable to hear me, let me know. And maybe I'll request everybody else to be on mute during this time. Digital assets and networks are more valuable than ever before in the BFSI domain, right? And the threats to digital ecosystems are multiplying. So do you believe that as a sector, the BFSI sector, we have acted appropriately to ensure that when the cyber attacks happen, not just our physical assets, but our critical data is also protected, as we are, becoming a very, very large and complex data economy as well?
Well, I hope I am clear to everybody, because again, after repeating from Kunal, still I miss part of it. So pardon me if I am not talking exactly to the point. But let me tell two things before I start answering. One, his question was whether we BFSI sector as a whole acted properly. Well, proper to what? There is no benchmark. This was a unprecedented situation, and so to say that the sector as a whole, or even a bank or an organization, has acted properly, I mean, we don't know, because there comes my second point. Because these kinds of mistakes are difficult to detect on real time. Maybe particularly those which are done with a malified intention, or in other words, frauds. Fraud by its own nature cannot be caught at the time of happening. Otherwise, it is no longer a fraud. Then it is a attempted fraud which has been caught. Fraud by nature shows that only after the incident has happened and some 6 months or 1 month or 3 years time has passed, you are able to detect that this thing has happened. So it will be too premature to say that whether the actions taken by BFSI sector, which includes all of us here present, was up to the mark or not. I think the time is too early. But having said that, please, because you yourself has quoted some 200 billion transactions, or maybe more, because number was so huge that my mind could not raise. I'll tell you, if you check, there was no second statistics, but next time surveyor should be asking, to ask those persons how many of you understood what is the process, how it is going to flow in. The customer is happy. He clicks a button and his partner
Transaction is done.
पैसे मिल गए. He is so happy, पैसे मिल गए. But पैसे कैसे मिल रहे हैं, he has no idea. He will equally nonchalantly put another button which allows a hacker or a person to steal his money. So the first thing that we need is to say is to a general understanding, a customer education sort of thing. Though it is a very ambitious thing and everyone keeps saying about this, it is not so easy. We have tried in our bank to educate the customer in the name of positive payment confirmation. And ultimately we have to withdraw it because there was so much of resistance that, and it was a pretty simple thing. We have given in our mobile banking an option telling them that whenever you issue a check, you just give a value and the party's name with the check number automatically coming. You just click it. We will come to know that you have issued this check.
That's good to know, Ajoy sir. That's good to know. Let's hear from Mr. Satyanarayan as well. Sir, what are your views?
Would you mind typing it or somebody chatting so that chat I can read your question clearly?
Sure, I will do that, sir. I will do that. Satyanarayan sir, you are on mute.
So very good afternoon to Kunal and my senior colleague there, Sundar Gidugu. So he's a senior mentor in Institute of Internal Auditors and ISACA and all. Okay. So again, back to meeting Sundar is on this forum is great. It's a privilege. So what your question is whether we are actually, you have asked us whether the banking sector, BFSI is actually it is resilient enough to face these challenges. Actually, it's more, I say the cyber journey happened, the digital journey happened through direct benefit transfers way back in 8 years. Then the RTGS, NEFT, there's a great revolution in Indian banking industry.
Yes.
Then before the COVID, even the demonetization has shifted the people from the front lines to software to digital mode. Demonetization has, and the figures are phenomenal. The NPCI, whatever is there, the integration they have rolled, whatever this, the products launched by NPCI, the products that are bank independence, interoperability of your transfers amongst branches, greatest breakthroughs have happened in the digital banking in India. That's what led to the figure of Capgemini, whatever, giving $1 billion transactions and all. As far as the security and banking sector, BFSI sector is more predominantly, it's regulatory driven. Ever since the Gopalakrishna Committee of Reserve Bank of India, huge document Gopalakrishna has envisaged, wherein he envisaged data protection also, because in the Gopalakrishna Committee recommendation, though they are a decade word, the data in the hands of the customer, or data at the servers of the bank, or the data at the third-party vendor, the protection of the data due to regulatory requirement, it becomes banks. Bank has to protect the data. So I can say the security measures in BFSI, morely regulatory need-based. Reserve Bank is also learning from NIST and all other frameworks, BIS standards and all. Reserve Bank is giving, and during the COVID period also they have given. In fact, they have accelerated the number of advisories. Both CERTIN or RBI have given, but the cybersecurity framework, you are into it, and CSOC was mandated by the cybersecurity framework and all. In our country, we can say the regulator has prescribed elaborate security in BFSI, and in the banking sector, like what you are going ahead, you are going through apps, you are going to more digital products, you are going to more agile technologies and all. Those security should also be increased due to these agile, in tune with these agile things. COVID actually, in fact, created work from home, created. Sundar is lucky working from home. He is the live example, Sundarji. So that's a challenge to the security person. And
right.
SCR working from home is a challenge to the security person to secure. So they have evolved the secured VPNs, that we build your own devices, monitoring of the devices. This device integration into the SOC and all, whatever device integration, and the human integration. Human integration means the device will be tested with whether they are from the user access control and all. It will be done. Then the device, whether it is sanitized or not, what are the rules of the bank were implemented, BFSI were implemented on the device and all. Then at the same time, you have to allow him to freely do the service and all. But this COVID situation really made the banking industry one of the most resilient. And I can say only one word: COVID and this cyber security both are so interlinked. COVID also, there's no vaccine detected. So there's no remedy known at that time. Now the cyber threats are also so agile in nature, we do not have any remedy. So only thing is,
I really like the way you are putting this together, sir. You know, COVID was unknown, and definitely cyber attacks are unknown as well. So with that,
only the immunity, your immunity is initially the immunity is only make you more resilient towards COVID. So how the bank is immune toward the IT cyber threats, the basic fundamental security concepts of the bank, if they are so thoroughly embedded into the culture of the organization, and the controls were time and again frequently tested, and they are effective and efficient. And You are again to make like some protecting such a, I am working from home or something. You should be robust. You should be fundamentally secured. You should be immune. That basic things, even whatever Cosmos Bank we have, the basic sanitation should have protected the bank. When the adversary is wrecking the bank for 6 months, and I don't know he's there in my systems for 6 months, the basic sanitation, whatever in COVID they told the basic sanitation, wash for 2 minutes. World Health Organization chief is telling those things banking industry should emulate. And the known attacks already happened. I want to add to Kunal because you are industry leaders. The regulator, whatever happened in Pune-based bank, that should be rehearsed, and we should all learn from it. Thank you.
Completely agreed, sir. And I think, you touched upon COVID and the uncertainty that it has brought in. Let me move to my next question and will request Sundar sir's input and feedback on this. Sir, organizations today are facing increase in overall cyber threats, right? I see. I think Sundar sir is Sundar sir still there with us? Okay, I think we lost Sundar sir. Let's wait for him to rejoin. Let me ask my question. Organizations in these COVID times today, I think Sundar sir is back.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, Sundar sir. We lost you for a moment. Thanks for joining back. So, sir, question to you, and we'll seek your input, and then we'll request Mr. Shailendra to share his thoughts as well. That organizations are facing significant increase in overall cyber threats, right? And especially due to the remote access that is happening during this COVID-19 period, right? Now, all of these forces are requiring enterprises to become more resilient and anti-fragile. Now, for organizations to become resilient, their security operations center, which is the core team that performs a very strong detection function, must evolve and become cyber resilient as well. What are your views and any actions that you recommend that organizations should take, or leaders should in our sector think about as they go ahead and make their SOC more resilient?
Right. Thank you so much, and thanks for very charitable, kind remarks of Mr. Satya. Pleasure to be in touch with him again. I also listened to Mr. Ajoy. I think I agree with both of them that it was an unprecedented change that brought us. In fact, digital transformation was launched by most institutions for 5 or 6 years back, and who accelerated it is, we have a WhatsApp question or a KBC question, and finally it is the COVID that launched digital transformation into the next level. So it's not the CEO, it's not the digital transformation head, but the COVID has put all the digital
right
into the next level. So yes, the threat antenna has gone up, and so is the network security threats. And I think, as I can see, I've been privy to one of the ransomware attacks. So I did a RCA and deep study into that. And the ransomware attack actually revealed a lot of things. Luckily, my organization was more disciplined, and we were so close but so far away from the attack, and none of our assets got impacted. But plain lucky, but just because we were disciplined enough to update on vulnerabilities. So the basics are important, what Mr. Satya said. But we need to move to the next level now. We need to plan better, strategize better. And that's what your question is also. The next generation SOCs have to take over now. So we have to do, weaponize our SOCs with AI and artificial intelligence, machine learning, and other weapons, so that you more proactive alert. Because as we speak, malwares are being launched. There are links that are launched in the SMSs. You'll see so many links when you get up in the morning. At least 30 odd links will come click this, click that, click that. We don't know all of that. What is an attack and what is a information value? And it's you just wondering. And finally, it's only known person you know whom you need to click. And again, you don't know some unknown person is masquerading as known person when he sends that, he or she sends that link. So things have become really frightening from a user perspective. Of course, user is protected through secure VPN. Is also protected, he or she is also protected through, like for instance, when I'm accessing through mobile, the MDM comes in play, and also there are many other security features that are there. But having said that, we need to be more proactive, more strategized, and the SOCs that are there, as I see, on an average, have not moved up the curve yet. The intelligence center that watches, that detects. Your question was on detection. The detection mechanisms haven't come up yet. The curve. Like we just receive reports later, and then we realize. And when you do an RCA for ransomware attack, you realize so many things. The attackers have been in the network for months. They've studied everything. They've hopped from one server to another. They've captured the privilege IDs of the administrators. They've propagated. They've taken away data already, and probably it's lying somewhere in the dark web. So these are the things that are there, and we need to catch up really. As an average BFSI, I'm not talking about every single BFSI here. An average or an above average BFSI needs to catch up. It's just very few institutions who come up the curve, who are into botnet intrusion detection and things like that, and next generation SOC. Probably again many factors, cost factors, status quo, budgets, and also scarcity of resources. So inadequacy of resources. I wouldn't say scarcity. At the end of the day, BFSI spends a lot of money on security, cyber security, and information security, and regulators are. And regulators are
as on date.
Regulators are again driving the agenda. You can see how HDFC Bank is being owned by a regulator. So you have other pressures, but having said that, we need to do better. We need to get our act together.
Absolutely, sir, and thanks for that. So there's with a ransomware attack, and when you start doing the root cause analysis, you start feeling, and I've been part of such incidents where we've worked with our clients. You suddenly feel that there is someone inside your house and has been there for so many months, and you don't even know about it, right? And you don't know where all they've traversed, what all they've extracted, and you start digging into it. It's actually quite interesting, but actually you don't want to be in that situation. I think with that, I request Mr. Shailendra as well to share his views on what do you think from a SOC perspective organizations should do. We talked about next gen SOC. What are your views, sir?
Yeah, Kunal. So I think we have an interesting group. We had two distinguished speakers representing large banks. And then you have Sundar and me representing the life insurance companies. So in that sense, we have a representation of the BFSI sector and different levels of maturity and different customer and product which we offer. But I think the common thread running around each one of it is the need to go digital, the need to adopt fintech as a backend platform. And however traditional the house may be, which owns these companies, but I think to the customer, you need to have your digital self, otherwise you'll not be in the marketplace. And I think, as Sundar rightfully said, COVID has pushed us in terms of unprecedented times. It has also come as an opportunity for us to adopt digitization and digitalization, and not just in terms of our infrastructure, but in terms of our mindset. And it's happened in such a short time that getting people trained, moving to the next level of infrastructure, it is still catching up. So I fully agree in terms of our SOC might still be traditional, more to meet the compliance requirements, more to collect logs, more to have alerts. But I think where we need to move into is in terms of how well is it embedded in terms of what are your new strategic outcomes. And this is, I think, through either process orchestration or automation, collaboration, threat management. Have you inbuilt AI? ML? Have you inbuilt user behavior analytics as part of your SOC? If you're not, I think you need to be there in terms of getting there, because I think this is the new normal. We will not go back to the traditional means, and we should not go back also. Coming to your larger question, I think you started off by stating that one of the points in your question was that it is now required for us to become resilient, and the SOC must evolve and go beyond towards cyber resilience. So I think it's not just resilience, or it's not just cyber resilience, but it's also organizational resilience which needs to be calibrated with. And I think from that perspective, I think SOC really needs to evolve. Yeah, so that's from my side. But as Sundar also rightfully said, we will be witnessing a lot of malicious campaigns, phishing, scams, because you'll be communicating a lot with the customers, and we'll be seeing a lot of exploits. We also faced a near malware attack, a near ransomware attack, and we were happy in terms of our existing infrastructure, existing work which you have done, regulator which pushed us to adapt to some of the cyber resilience and cyber security guidelines. That helped us to be ready today for this day. And it is all about low probability, high impact. When you set it up, you don't expect it to happen, but if it happens, the impact is high. So I think that's where SOC needs to be evolved.
Totally agreed. We touched upon, and I think Mr. Sundar talked about, embedding AI, right? He talked about machine learning. You talked about user behavior analytics, and some of these are now being assumed to be naturally part of your SOC journey as well. Let's talk about how it is being leveraged today and what are some of the downsides as well. So I'll move to my next question, and you can see it as well. Large organizations across sectors are already exploring and leveraging the power of AI, with IoT to deliver new offerings and operate more efficiently. And definitely, BFSI as a sector is leveraging digital to the largest extent today, right? With all the benefits that this brings, there comes substantial risks as well. While the organizations are adopting AI to bolster their security efforts, cyber criminals are also resorted to approaches to ease out their way into malicious exploitation of vulnerabilities. From an AI powered security tool perspective, are you also worried about AI powered malwares today? So the more this brings us closer to near real-time detection and response, it also actually enables cyber criminals to create more stronger AI-powered malwares. What are your views on this? And I'll start with asking Mr. Ajoy, sir, any views on this?
No, very right. This is a nightmare. In fact, it is as if you are driving your car and somebody else is able to control the car. So,
yes.
As Mr. Shailendra Kothawade has said about SOC 2, basic requirement again, I feel is that your business and your SOC should be very, very closely synchronized. That is one way to prevent an attack from an outsider, howsoever intelligent he is. But if it is a good husband-wife relation, a third party cannot create much of confusion. That principle that principle applies here. So your intelligence sharing between business and your SOC is definitely going to help. But yes, threat is increasing because whatever you can do through machine learning and artificial intelligence, the cyber criminal can also do, and he may do it better because he is not bound by all those limitations of compliance and other things. He can share his business on the dark net, and there are so many persons. You are here, 10 persons, 20 persons, 100 persons looking after your system. There are thousands of the persons. So it is definitely going to be a challenge, particularly in the light of this. In fact, my feeling as of now, of course with time it may change when I understand better, is that let us not improvise your system too much, so that it can start flirting. It's like a girl who has studied very well, she starts flirting with a much better looking boys. Don't do that. Don't go ahead if you are not sure you can handle. And for that reason, I strongly feel that the person who is looking at your securities, they should be valued properly, they should be trained properly, and if they want to quit, particularly the person who is looking at a SOC, he should be convinced to stay back, because he will be able to identify by nature that boss yahan kuch gadbad lag raha hai. Otherwise, you see a SOC report, a person like me will not understand anything. I'll say everything looks all right, and the SOC person says, "No, sir, this behavior is not acceptable," because he understands the data being thrown. So, give respect to the SOC team, give them more if you have to, but this is going to be a big nightmare to everybody.
Agreed, sir. And I really like your example. The husband-wife relationship that needs to be there within the functions of an organization. Satyanarayan sir, what are your views on this? It's getting complex by the day. Just request you to unmute yourself.
So 2 things I add to you. I already shared in the chart that 12.5 million 2019 CrowdStrike report. 12.5 million in one incident they have ransomware, they are there. And what you have, doubts you have expressed, they are already there. Ransomware as a service is available, they are telling the CrowdStrike report. And Sundarji, there are groups, 3 groups they identified, they operate only against India. So they are doing specialization and super specialization. Banking industry, BFSI sector is also specializing. But here a lot of integration is required. The wife and husband relationship, what Ajay ji telling, especially in big banks, banking mohots, the huge collaboration is required. I think I can't say what is Ajay ji's, even security itself is working silo. How the security can work in silo? SOC team is different, some other team is different, some other team is different. So we should work intellectually, we should have a daily meeting, weekly meeting. Okay, you are integrating everything with CISO. But how many CISOs know the business? Who is the banking person who knows IT and business together? Ultimately, you are working for business. What is the availability of services? The availability of services when regulator is not telling the best public sector, private sector bank, then what about other banks? When they are telling one of the best bank I have seen, I'm an eyewitness how the bank works differently. But Reserve Bank of India is telling that your business continuity is not there. So we have to global learnings like 9/11. I want to add here, Sundarji, 9/11 Morgan Stanley incident is one of the best recovery measures made. They had least employees hit by the building when 4,500 employees are working in the building and the building got collapsed in 30 minutes. So those kind of global best practices we should understand every day, like a thief will do the video playing every day. How to learn in every board meeting how 9/11 Morgan Stanley incident, how business continuity they have. Their New Jersey operation got up in 30 minutes. They started purchasing. How they have? We have to learn. Even our regulator also has to do. I am not working in a bank, public sector bank. Commenting on regulator is not at all advisable. But I am seeing the Sundar must be very happy, and because he is from risk management, I am also partially. I was surprised that Monetary Authority of Singapore is any Singapore citizen. If he does that risk management certification, 90% the regulator is giving the reimbursement. In a public sector, if I do, the management itself is not giving reimbursement. So regulator Already Indian regulator has shared 1,75,000 crores to the government. Again, 50,000 crores he is giving. He has to create a robust security network in the system. He should become really the big brother. The government also should not take the money from the regulator. The regulator money should be utilized. The reserves of Reserve Bank of India should be reserved, should be to protect the financial system of the banking industry. And they are becoming more again. And Kunal, you can take up with the regulator. They have to use their money to safeguard the interest of the BFSI. By its Sundarji, I am telling you, whatever Reserve Bank of reserves are paid by banks as interest. Banks, CRR, whatever money I kept with the Reserve Bank, they earned interest. All the banks are having a right on it, not the government of India. It is my contribution. They should spend all the money for security hygiene, not giving, like the other day in one of the forum, they asked whether the regulator came to you to protect during the COVID. I told, on the other hand, regulator has given another 10 advisories. You do this in addition to whatever. I do not have anything. I do not have anybody at my risk. The regulator has given me some 10 advisories. You do this one. At that time, Sundar is a senior member. IRCTC I have seen, sir. IRCTC is a website I have followed since long. They have removed the controls. Non-required control should be removed. So the regulatory in such kind of a pandemic, he should come out with the advisory. You concentrate on these 5 core controls. All other controls you remove. Whether any regulator is having that much maturity to come to me, you need not do this. He will ask more advisories. He will say that his KRA is achieved. So the regulator should have all the things. They should protect the banking industry, BFSI, especially from state-sponsored acts and all, whatever is happening. It is the regulator's responsibility equally. And you are telling the adversary is becoming more and more again. So I should become more and more again. At the trainings, at one of the institutes, 30,000, 40,000. Sir, we are through ISACA. Sundar has delivered the sessions free of cost. I will take ISACA Ahmedabad session free of cost. If I go to a institute in Hyderabad, I have to pay 30,000 rupees. They should make the cyber security free of cost. Whether ask the senior colleague Sundar whether he joins with me or not. It is the regulator's responsibility to, when ISACA is doing on its own free of cost, and we are subscribing as members 20,000, IAA membership 5,000. So regulators should become so mature, then only they can protect the banking industry. They should learn from Singapore again. The citizens, they are reimbursing the fees who are risk and security.
That's a very, very important point that you have brought up, Satya sir. And let me now, just take up the last question here. And since you have brought up the topic of regulator and sponsoring security, driving security in the sector, Mr. Sundar, what are your views? What the regulator is doing today, or the guidelines that are coming, or the way the budgets are being spent, or the kind of budget being allocated to security. It's actually a very, very important topic for discussion.
Yeah. So I think there is a shortage of security professional. The only way we can combat the advanced and sophisticated attacks of these fraudsters and hackers and darknet collaborators is to collaborate. So I think that's the bullseye, what Mr. Satya said. We have to collaborate together, we have to work together, we have to team together. And one of the important ingredients of collaboration is the access to collaboration. It should be accessible. It can't be exorbitantly expensive that you are not able to access the knowledge, you're not able to access it, the better experience or best practices. So if you make that access easier, as he rightly said, then of course it will definitely help. And collaboration is the name of the game. Having said that, I think there is some efforts already started. I don't know whether he is recipient of the Cyber Swachhata reports. So there is a national critical infrastructure under the Prime Minister's office. In fact, I was making a presentation along with my CISO to them on how we have organized security in my own organization. They were reviewing it. So in the whole conference room, we had defense experts, we had the head of that national critical infrastructure. He was again a PhD in information security. There was a lot of important regulatory people also, then military intelligentsia and all that. So they did collaborate in that conference room very well. And they were able to pinpoint what are the problems in the industry. And they urged the Live Council to come together, industry council. So similarly in the banking, banking association, IBA, RBI, everybody has to work together. The industry has to work together. That is the only way we can combat the sophisticated attacks of terrorists and people who are more intelligent, more experienced, and more sharper to collaborate and work together. So that's a very well thought out point. The other point is that currently whatever alerts and alerts that we get out of SOC, there are a lot of false positives. We have to get sharper there. We'll have to get much sharper there and use AI and to get a very crisp list of exceptions so that you exactly get the problem. As Mr. Ajoy said, we have to have a good relationship with the SOC guy so that you get exactly what is the problem. And you get so many false positives and reports, as he rightly said, we don't know what is wrong, what is right. And you will tend to ignore a very important alert or a risk alert, and you get saddled in the quantity. Even when I do a dashboard, I get so many issues, 400, 300 odd issues in a small company like mine. And the number of issues are too many because you get reports from so many areas. So these logs, that log, this log, and then you have a log analyzer to analyze those logs. So we'll have to get better intelligent, better collaborative, better sharper, use latest tools to get sharper there. And therefore, on the regulatory, government and RBI front, everything has to be made accessible, collaborative, work together. That should be the motto.
Collaboration is the name of the game. That's what you said. So I picked that from there.
Even internally, exactly. The security,
Absolutely.
SOC, the IT, technology, the network team, all have to work together. Otherwise, whenever I have meetings, that's the only time action plans get sharper and action plans get implemented.
Right.
You just recommend.
Let's hear from Mr. Shailendra as well. How are you looking at this? At Aditya Birla Sun Life, and what would you like to add? What Mr. Sundar already covered, and Mr. Ajoynath and Mr. Satya also talked about from a regulatory perspective.
Yeah, so I think I'll echo whatever Sundar has said. I think he's covered it quite comprehensively. To be fair to the regulator, I think they have a catch-up game to do, but they're doing it very well. So you would see the guidelines of cybersecurity are similar across RBI, SEBI, and IRDA for a start. So the maturity of the industry, it's time to catch up because cybersecurity or cyber incidents could happen anywhere, and customers are vulnerable. I think some good work is being done by the regulators and by the by the government in terms of simple messages, simple communication. Don't click this link, be aware of this, don't take these phone calls, whether it be phishing, whether it be spamming. And I think it starts from the basics. That's what the gullible investors, customers will come to know. And I think as private enterprises, we need to up our involvement in terms of public awareness, adoption of certain pockets of customers, ensure that because everyone has a smartphone, everyone is connected, we are moving into 5G now in the near future. So I think these incidents are going to increase. What is important is within an organization, how do you drive it culturally? What's the tone at the top and the mood in the middle and the buzz at the bottom? I think you need to ensure you cover all of that. And also, how well do you communicate to your customers in terms of, so for example, my company during COVID initial days, we had launched a Sahi campaign, which was Stay at Home India. And what it actually said was, please take care of yourself during COVID times. Don't venture out. But as part of this larger initiative, we promoted digital. We also promoted cybersecurity a lot among our customers, among our advisors. And so some of that we are doing. We are adopting certain small districts within the country where we are doing cyber awareness, where we are doing personal trainings, because not everyone will be privy to some of these tools, some of these communications, and they are more gullible. Senior citizens are more gullible. So I think you need to do that. You need to protect yourself, of course. That's very important. And I think you need to earn your seat at the table in terms of how well you highlight the risk. How do you bring the ROI around something which might happen in future or might not? And the good thing of a cybersecurity framework, and the bad thing also, is you're putting in tools to prevent something happening. And in India, generally, we react only when something happens. Budgets come in only when something happens. So you don't want something to happen, but you want the budget to prevent it. So it's a fine balance you need to do. And I think as seasoned professionals, I think we need to really push forward for that agenda.
Definitely agreed. And, let me just add my 2 cents to it. At EY, the entire principle that we are pushing forward is security by design, right? You talked about 5G, there is going to be an entire network upliftment and change that is going to be brought in. Digital has brought a lot of that change in the network as well. So as this evolves, enabling and ensuring security by design, this is a global approach that we are sort of driving with our with organizations, with sectors, is certainly that something that needs to be established. And if I just connect those dots with India, I think the way we have driven with the current government the entire initiative of Swachh Bharat, I think another initiative needs to be started, and that's my thought process is Surakshit Bharat, right? So there is a like a Swachh India campaign, there needs to be a Secure India campaign as well, and I think you covered that, Shailendra, that
I just want to make one point. We've been seeing tweets by celebrities, and some of them being planted. I mean, each one of us could have our views around it. But I see a more of concerted activities in that direction. A lot of cyber terrorism would come into picture. And the first they will target is, along with government agencies, your financial institutions, your backbone.
Absolutely.
So I think we should be prepared for that. That's something which is very critical. We should be mindful and we should not take it lightly. That's very critical. Within an organization, you just need to ensure that there is good amount of security orchestration. All your various tools speak with each other. I think that's very, very important. And you invest in a robust security framework. Your security posture needs to be without compromise. If you want to grow, I think that's the bare minimum.
Completely agreed. I think with that, let's bring in to end this particular panel discussion. Thank you so much to all our esteemed panelists. Thanks for your views. Thanks for your input. I believe this has certainly opened up a lot of other questions as well, and we look forward to having another session soon to talk more about that. With that, over to you, Sally.
Ajoy sir wants to say something, I believe.
Yes, Ajoy sir, please.
I just wanted to add one more thing, which I think it should have been covered here. That is basically the differential incentive as a cyber security person and a hacker. I mean, hacker has a different incentive and reward and risk return profile is totally different from a cyber security person. As a organization, and that to a mature organization, I can't offer that kind of reward. I can't offer that kind of incentive. And I can't offer an unlimited budget. कि बेटा जा लड़ ले, जितना लड़ाई करना, that we can't do. So we have to realize this constraint and then only formulate our plan. That the person sitting on the other side may be 18-year-old kid who is just doing for fun, and maybe a group of cyber experts sitting in some country which is going to attack, like Iran's case has happened. It is pretty well known those kind of things are beyond any of the commercial organization in India. I mean, if somebody attacks to us like that, we are going to simply fold up overnight. So that
Right,
is
sir.
something
Completely agreed.
he looked into. And I think
Yeah,
ENY is in a better place to think over it, because you are in touch with so many organizations, and maybe you will be able
Noted,
to
sir.
pick so many points from them.
Definitely, definitely. Thank you, Ajoy, sir.
So we close.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Thanks for your time. Have a good evening, and wish you all the best.
Best
Thanks,
wishes.
Thank you. Good evening.
Stay safe, stay healthy. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thanks to
Thanks,
Sanya.
Kunal. Thanks so much for moderating the session. This
Thank you,
was
Sanya.
a session very wonderfully moderated. Thanks, Shailendra sir, Ajoy sir, Satya sir, and Sundar sir. Thanks for giving us your time and taking part for this panel discussion.
And thank you, Sanya.
Thank you.
Pertinent seminar, a very pertinent topic. So
Yes.
you're doing a good job. Thank you.
Most
Yes.
welcome.
Looking
Thank you,
forward
sir.
to
Thank you so much.
more such
Sure.
panel discussions. Thank you. Thank you.
Sure.
Bye bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, guys. We would now like to